Well, there's been a lot of concern for people who are getting laid off lately, and a lot of people getting laid off, not just in D.C., but elsewhere in the federal government sphere. But really, even though they've been getting all the attention, layoffs are something most of us have to deal with at some point in time. There's a lot of people listening right now that are dealing with either being laid off or the specter of being laid off. Heck, that's almost bad as losing your job, is just sitting around worrying about it all day. Allen Curley's back on the James Show to talk about how this could really put people in the dumps. I have there's a friend of mine who his company's in the middle of a buyout offer, and if the deal falls through, they all lose their job, and he just has to go to work every day with that sword hanging over his head. Talk about what people go through when either they get laid off or they have to worry about layoffs excessively.
Well, one thing they go through, and again, thank you for having me, is stress and anxiety is obviously the most obvious thing that folks go through. And so many times it's kind of unfortunate to say and acknowledge that many employees have a false sense of security when it comes to, their job and their job situation. There really is no true security in any job. The only security that any of us can find is in ourselves, and that's how we need to be thinking to alleviate some of the stress, in my opinion.
Well, I've always been under the impression, and this is so much easier said than done, that stress and worrying, for the most part, is voluntary. You have to actively decide to worry about things.
Man, it's funny that you say that. You just stole my thunder. Because what I was just going to share is that there are really only two things that we can control in the world, and that's our that's our own attitude and our own behavior. There's really nothing else outside of us that we can truly control. We may be able to influence things sometimes, but we can't control them. So if we really understand and acknowledge and receive and accept that fact that no matter what happens, the only thing we can really control is our own attitude and behavior, then let's focus on what we can control.
Well, let's start taking hold of things we can control. I think one thing that would kind of lighten the load when you're worried about getting laid off is if you have some money in the bank, if you have an emergency fund, if you know that if you get laid off, you'll have, 3-6 months of cushion for you to find the next thing. I think that's huge.
It is huge. No question about it. I think what may rival that in terms of importance is how much we believe in ourselves. Because at the end of the day, that's what we have to count on. That money's going to run out eventually, no matter what. But if we have a belief in ourselves and we don't take a victim stance, and if things start happening and if we lose a job, then what I suggest and encourage everyone to do is just apply the law of numbers. And this is what I mean by that. 100% of opportunities will not be denied you 100% of the time. It's guaranteed. It's mathematically impossible.
Well, that's a silver lining saying there. And I've always said the real antidote to being laid off, like if you never want to be laid off again, if you never want to be fired again, also you can set your own vacation time or maternity leave or whatever, is if you're self-employed. That's really the big one, to where you have other problems, but being laid off is not one of them.
That's true, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I own several businesses, and that's just kind of what I do. And you're right. I wouldn't trade it for the world, because at the end of the day, it takes a special kind of person to really jump out there and take that leap. But I will tell you, to not be long-winded, that I would rather count on myself and bank on myself as opposed to counting on someone else to take charge of my future. That's, if things are going to go upside down, I want it to go upside down because of something I did, not because of something that someone else did.
So you got a podcast starting up? You got a show, Allen Curley Show?
I do. Thank you for mentioning it. The show was created. I don't know how much you know about my past, but drug addiction. I was in prison for 10 years. I was homeless. Went from that to kind of changing my mindset, and now I'm the CEO of several companies, one of which is the fourth largest tax resolutions firm in the country, which is called Finish Line Tax Solutions. I wrote a book about about my journey, and I started this podcast to try to put the spotlight on other, what I call heroes next door. we're just inundated with so much negativity and nonsense, in my opinion, that I really think it's important for us to really recognize that there are heroes right within our community, right next door, that are doing amazing things, that have overcome tremendous odds. And I think they need to be recognized. And also, I think that recognition could bring about some inspiration for us.
Well, I love those comeback stories, going from prison to self-made millionaire. Sounds like good stuff. The Scott Allen Curley Show launches March 19th. Look for it online. ScottAllenCurley.com as well. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks for having me.